We're thrilled to welcome Dr. Ameena Ali, a renowned leader with a remarkable career path. Dr. Ali's journey has seen her excel as a midwife, educator, doctor, and even a former armed forces officer. These diverse experiences all stem from her unwavering dedication to service and social justice. As the founder and CEO of FIGHR, Dr. Ali is a champion for gender equality and human rights. FIGHR empowers individuals through mentorship programs, internship opportunities, and by advocating for impactful policy changes. Her commitment to education extends further with Harbour Heritage University, the first accredited institution solely focused on gender and human rights studies. We're thrilled to welcome Dr. Ameena Ali, a renowned leader with a remarkable career path. Dr. Ali's journey has seen her excel as a midwife, educator, doctor, and even a former armed forces officer. These diverse experiences all stem from her unwavering dedication to service and social justice. Get ready for an inspiring conversation. We'll delve into Dr. Ali's remarkable path, exploring her insights on leadership, empowerment, and the ongoing pursuit of equality. Her story is more than just inspiring. It's a powerful call to action for each of us.
Thank you so much for being part of Herald Women's Voice Club, ma'am. It is an honor and privilege and a blessing to have someone like you to be part of this particular segment of ours. Thank you so much for your valuable time.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here.
So we'll move on to the questions, ma'am. So Harbour Heritage University is a first university focused on gender and human rights. So what specific skills and knowledge do you believe are essential for future leaders in this field?
Okay, that's a great question and great opening too. I want to thank you for that. I believe future leaders in this field of gender and human rights have a unique offering. Now is a greater time than ever for us to be able to challenge the norms, be great leadership to what it is that is necessary, and then be the change agent that's necessary. So I've developed a breakdown. It's about 8 parts, if you will. And I wanted to condense it really, really quickly, but there's 8 parts to this that I teach in the curriculum that I have, okay? The first part is the deep understanding of gender intersectionality. This is how do you intersect like race, class, gender, human rights, the permissibility, the plausibility, thematic, and actualized programming together. How do you blend all that together? And then how do you divulge it into the community based on your audience? If you're teaching children, if you're teaching young adults, if you're teaching elders that are probably fixed in their mindset, how do you get this intersectionality together? Number 2, advocacy skills. How do you promote support? So many people say, I want to support you in what you do. Well, what does that look like? And then what does that look like for gender and human rights? Like, how do we show and know that we are actually supporting? Number 3, cultural competency. Now, this one is understanding others. This is not just, I know you, you know me, and, we talked for a year or two. Like, really getting to know maybe like the South Asian community, the language, the culture, the people, the food, and understanding why they do the things that they do, rather than just hearing it from maybe a single story variation of me just knowing you, knowing me. Getting to know the people as a whole. And number 4 is strategic thinking. This is my favorite. This is you using your skill set to manage teams and devise strategies. This is you bringing your piece to the table, me bringing my piece to the table, and we're putting it together in a formulation that will allow us to have long-term goals and strategic planning going forward. Number 5, communication skills. That goes without saying. This is clear and persuasive oration. This is, I'm not talking down to you. I'm not talking at you. I'm not feeling like I'm better than you, or that because you're older, you know more than me. It is the exchanging of education and wisdom together. Number 6 is conflict resolutions. This is the basic mediation. If I don't agree, we can agree to disagree agreeably, understanding that each point is valid and that it does not have to be a negated point of view that is seen or heard. Number 7, this is another favorite. This is ethical judgment and integrity. We don't use those words anymore. So many times we say you need to respect me or respect your elder. How about the dignity or the integrity of the person? And this is returning this to the concept of our conversations, understanding and being patient, giving people the benefit of the doubt, understanding that everyone comes from a different place and that may not be where we are. And number 8 is adaptability and resilience, and that is adaptability or adapting to change. That is the hardest thing. We're seeing it in the conflicts in the African continent, with DRC and Rwanda and Sudan and all of the wars that are going on there, and that those around them are not understanding that these people need shelter and that, other people may be coming into their land, and that's being seen as a hardship. So understanding that everyone deserves the right of sanctity and freedom, and that change may be a part of that.
So can you share a specific example of how you navigated cultural or religious differences to achieving the progress on a gender equality or human rights issue?
Oh, now that was a hard one. The only thing I could think of is when we were in Kenya. We were dealing with a rural community and we were talking about gender roles. And this was a traditional held belief that girls should focus on domestic roles rather than going to school and, the traditional thinking. But what the girls wanted to do is they wanted to be able to explain, remember we talked about clear and concise. They wanted to be able to explain what they wanted in their education and how their education can do great things. It can base the community in a different way of thinking. It can promote education in other children in other communities that are adjacent to this area. And then it can allow the girls to feel satisfied. And then they can bring that satisfaction to the families that they have and they come into being. First, we engaged the leaders and we discussed this with the leaders. That was most important. The leaders felt like the girls were just going to just say what they want to say, but the leaders had a say in this. So we talked with them and we looked at what it is that they were seeing, and then we brought the voice of the girls in. And then next we facilitated workshops. That was huge, where the leaders can get to see what the girls would be doing, how they would amass what their education would look like, the ways that they can go through each of the steps of their education, from doing their elementary work to doing their college work and the internships, and how they can bring that back to the community. And then finally, the women were encouraged to speak publicly about what they wanted to do. How many women we saw that wanted to be doctors and lawyers, and here their parents wanted them to be farmhands and into agriculture and farming. And the girls were like, this is really not what I wanted to do. So we were allowing the girls to have their voice. And for the first time, these girls were able to tell their parents and their elders that this is not what they wanted to do. I know it's a family business, but I can help in another aspect of being in that business. I don't have to physically be in the dirt. I can keep you healthy so that you can continue farming. Or I can be that person that allows you to spread your money, through banking and finance. So they were showing what they wanted to do. And then the approach that we gave allowed both people, the elders, and then the girls, the women, to have a voice, and then they can sit at the same table and speak. And that was a first time for some of them. They were sitting there, they were shaking, and they were wondering if the elders are going to cast them out, and it was just a beautiful time. And I was truly moved, because for that to be the first time it happened, and then to know we set the stage, that was truly rewarding.
Well, so what lessons learned from your experience as president of the Rotary International E-Club of Social Innovators do you apply to your work at FIGHR?
Yes. Well, first, it's how to break barriers. As you know, the Rotary organization is very Eurocentric.
Yes.
So anyone that is not of that mindset is kind of looked at differently. So anyone from the South Asian community, from the African community, from even the Latinx and the Hispanic community is often looked at as other. So we broke barriers. I was the first woman, and then the first woman of color to hold the presidential position in a Rotary chapter.
Oh.
And thank you. And that was huge for 3 years. I did it 3 years in a row. And that was huge because that was, first of all, it had never been done. And then it had never been done stateside here, in the United States. And then it had never been done in Rotary, for that field. So it was huge. So the second part is shattering ceilings. I was a woman coming into this Euro male dominated voice. And I had a voice, and it was strong, and it was prominent, and it was unapologetic. And it allowed me to be in that space and know that we were going to get some work done, And the last one was how to make a difference for the girl coming after. There's going to be a little girl that's going to say, how can I make a difference in Rotary one day? What can I do for the Rotary Foundation? Or maybe they are of a legacy. Maybe their mother was in Rotary, or their father. What are they going to bring to the table? Now they have an example in real time of what it is that they can do and the inclusion that comes with it.
That's so amazing.
Thank you.
So throughout your career, you have held roles in medicine, education, and the military. How did these diverse experiences prepare you to lead a global human rights organization?
Wow, that's a whole conversation, like you say, off camera. But let's just deal with the three that you mentioned: education, medicine, and the military. I would say it provides a very robust foundation for what it is that I build into my leadership. In education respects, it helped me to manage a deeper understanding. In order for you to learn, you have to experience, you have to understand, and you have to go through those places and spaces. This is to social context and the importance of advocacy. These are things that I had to develop in this leadership. When we talk about medicine, this is firsthand experience. We're dealing with rural women and women that didn't have the voice, as we talked about, and women that didn't have the education that we just spoke about. And this is critical issues such as health equity and the right to health care. So many women just believe because it's not there that, that's something that they won't experience, but they have a right to it. And this is where we come in to empower those women. And then the military was, of course, my strategic leadership. That was just understanding discipline, understanding the courage under fire, putting my skills and understanding of international law, how I can apply what I learned here in other areas and other cultures. And then understanding that we have to carry this into conflict zone where the rationalization is not there. I mean, look at what's happening in the Middle East. When we talk about understanding what is necessary, we have those in the Middle East that they're not listening to reason. So we have to understand that was a huge piece of how we dissect this leadership in FIGHR, because we had to understand that not everybody speaks our language, but we still can communicate.
Very true. So FIGHR is focused on human rights advocacy in the digital age. Can you describe a specific way technology has been leveraged to empower women or marginalized groups? How does FIGHR define success in its various initiatives? And what metrics do you use to measure the impact of your work on a global scale?
Okay, so we're going to talk about something that everybody can relate to: money. Technology has been leveraged in our organization by teaching and empowering marginalized women in finance or in economy. Okay.
Yeah.
We have in rural areas, in underserved, undeveloped, and those that are marginalized, we tend not to have the ability to properly adhere to a financial structure. So a plan, a pattern, access is far and few between. So what we developed is a plan. It's a 4-part plan that pertains to the metrics used in finance. Okay. And this is some of the programs that we bring. This is one of the many programs we bring, but since you talked about metrics, this is one of the ways that we measure it specifically. So the first part is financial inclusion. And this speaks to the basic measures of percentage of adults in the community that use finance. So when do you start? Do you start with money in when you're in school? Do you start when you're in college? Do you start when you're a young adult and you're starting a business? When do you begin to use finance in your community? And when do you start using it personally on your own by yourself? Okay. The second one is the economic activity. Now, this goes to tracking the number of new bank accounts that are open, new business registrations, how the people are investing in their business, what they're seeing as important, as a priority in their finances, and then what is it that they're asking for as far as grants and subsidies and support in their business. Then 3 is the usage and engagement. Now, this one really is the crux of the first 2 and the last one that we'll speak about in a minute. Usage and engagement is the data on how frequently individuals use these services. Do you use it every day, every other day, once a week, twice a week? Are you wiring money once a month? Are you sending an example to maybe save money? Maybe one pay period you spend on your bills, the next pay period you put in the bank. How are you engaging in these financial products that are available here? And then the last one, of course, is the social impact assessment. This is to evaluate the change. What is this money now doing to change your environment? What are the products, the financial products being used, and how are they being leveraged? Did you start with a checking account and they got a checking and savings account? Did you start using mobile banking? Are you online more or going into a bank more? You know, us older women, we like to go into the bank. We like to go and hand our money over to the teller and we know it's safe. But the younger generation, everything online. They pass money back and forth, and trade money, and they send money and all right there on their phone. Mm-hmm. I'm still looking at my daughters and like, how did you just send that money so quick? I'm waiting to get dressed. I gotta go take the car and go down to the bank. And my daughter's like, you can do it right here on your phone. So just the knowledge of what we used to do versus what they are doing, and the technology that bridges that gap is another piece. Because, just because we're getting older doesn't mean we're not into finance, but there means that there's a different way, that change we talk about, and how we are settling in on that change.
Okay. That's applicable for us as well. So
yes,
because world is changing so fast, even like we have to learn from the next generation and keep ourselves updated. Otherwise, they're going to sit on our heads.
Right. Absolutely.
So, who has been a key mentor or inspiration in your journey, and how did their guidance shape your approach to human rights work?
Wow. I don't think there's any one person. I think it's just life. And I think when I was reviewing these, that's the only thing I kept coming up with was like, this was the best inspiration. Trials, triggers, traumas, they're all teachers. They are all allowing me to grow. What you survive, you are bound to learn from. And what doesn't kill you will strengthen you. So I have to say that those that came to be the teacher of that wisdom, those that came to teach me, if nothing else, what not to do again, those were my wisdom teachers. Those were my best teachers. And so many people just believe that they came to cross my path in a negative way, but you taught me a valuable lesson. So I have to say that I bring those lessons into the community, into our work, into our mission. And I think those are the best blessings that I've had thus far.
That's lovely, ma'am. Because always we actually search for that one person. We forget how much our own life teaches us.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Each and every word what you say is actually making me think rather than asking you the next question. It's like, you're like, of course, like, okay.
Right.
So let me go to my next question though. So collaboration is key in achieving large-scale work. How does FIGHR identify and build strong partnerships with other organizations to advance its goals?
Yeah, well, first we have to study the business. We have to look at the model, the mission, and the intention of the organization. What are you doing? What are you offering the world? What is your plan? What is your goal? What are some of the things that you are in your long game? What are you succeeding in? And then It's important in that, because anything that they do will reflect on the outcome. And we are going to be connected to that outcome. So we want to make sure that that outcome is synonymous with our missions, our goals, and of course, our motto. And then we look at leadership. And I know this is going to come across kind of funky, but if we look at those at the top, at the very top, and we look at that leadership, because, toxicity rolls down. So we have to see who's still hungry, who's in the mission, who still gets up and is excited every day to do the work that they do, and who's just sitting in a space to be a placeholder, who just wants to reign with the title of ambassador or emissary or dignitary, who wants to just hold a space, who wants to just vibe on a title and just want the power and the prestige that comes with it. And if we see that there's more of the latter than there are of the former, then we tend not to deal with that business. We want those CEOs and CFOs to still be sweeping the floor. We want those that are founders to still be standing at the door and welcoming people as they come to the door, because we see that as you're still hungry to be in the mix of what it is you set your business up for. So this is where the passion leads us to a greater collaboration and definitely a continued relationship, especially in gender and human rights.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so reflecting on your career, can you share a time when you faced a setback in your human rights work, but how did you overcome that challenge and what did you learn from that experience?
Well, I don't like the word setback, because setback means it's a failure of some sort. I like to see setbacks as, or the term setback as a lesson you had to learn over time. So you didn't fail. You can get up from that, and you can move forward from that. So it's not really a setback. It was something that came into your life that you needed to learn right away. And normally setbacks are set up for the next lesson. And this is unique in the way that it teaches you, it gives you an ability to learn from that experience and then share that experience so others won't have to go through that. So there is where you learn and you teach. So the setback is a lesson in and of itself. But when I was told, the short story on this one, I was told in 2014 that I would never be able to have a social construct of gender and human rights because there was no such thing. No one needed a nonprofit in gender and human rights. I said, no. Right. I said, well, maybe that's what's wrong with society, that we don't have a social structure in gender and human rights. Understanding that we as a people, the humanistic part of us, have rights, we have roles, we have responsibilities, and we've gotten away from that. And that's why we have such turmoil in trying to build laws and legislation and having things happen in our society that we know is unjust. Look at, again, what's happening in the Middle East. This is unjust. This is not seeing people as human, not seeing women and children, boys and girls, as human beings, and not understanding that, everyone is not a casualty of war and should be. And I think that this is the experience that we bring into what we understand. But we took that and we turned it into, in 2015, what we know to be FIGHR, or as you say, FIGHR. FIGHR is an organization that has capitalized on understanding that human resource is the best resource that we will ever have in this lifetime, ever. The human capacity to love, learn, teach, and grow is what is going to shapeshift any new technology, any new variety of ways of doing things, and any new demographic to what we do. The human capacity is what is a strategic thinker, is a complex thinker, is the emotional intelligence holder in any agency of change. So I think to better answer your question, my career in medicine has allowed me to do this and understand what it is that we bring into FIGHR so that we can be that change agent in real time.
Yeah. If you had unlimited resources, what innovative project would you launch to address a critical gender or human rights issue?
I think we've already started that program. It's called Harbor Heritage University.
Yes, first one.
It's the first and only school of gender and human rights. I mean, there is no other school that offers a complete coursework from associate, bachelor's, master's, and PhD in gender and human rights. We're the only one. So I think we started that. Now, the unlimited resources, I think that has to just fall out of the sky in some way. But I think that pot of gold is somewhere. We just have to find it. But I think what we are doing in Harbor Heritage is a rich and wealthy financial piece that is going to be a key fit for the world. I really believe that. Yeah.
Working across cultures, you must encounter a variety of perspectives. Can you share a story where a cultural exchange challenged your assumptions or broadened your understanding of human rights?
Oh my goodness. What we're doing in the Republic of the Gambia. You know, I am of the continent, of course, but I was born in the United States. And understanding that was a whole different understanding as to what traditional thinking that we come from, and then what it is that we're seeing now in today. And it's the work we're doing in female genital mutilation. I don't even have to begin to even talk about that for anyone to understand how morally corrupt that leaves women, how there is such a social and ethical impact that is left on this woman that is PTSD at its best. Now, I was never a victim of that. Actually, when it was my turn, the women in the community actually stopped it because they realized that that's not what we do here in the United States. And with that, they realized many years ago that it wasn't needed, that I and those women of my generation did. Now I'm hitting 60, easy. So understand, this is a while back. And they realized that those of us here in the United States, we didn't think that way. We didn't think in the way that the men assumed we did, and thus female genital mutilation was necessary. And I just assumed when I went to other countries that they felt the same way. So the assumption there was when you go to other countries that, oh, well, they're not going to practice FGM because, that's not necessary. We didn't have it. And, we were back in the day, but traditional thinking was at its height. And we still didn't have that experience. So I go back home to talk to the women, to be in the space, and these women are still dealing with it. In 2024, there are women and girls that are still being forced into it, that are still running away from their villages and their homesteads at young ages, and they have to have survival techniques out there because they ran away from what they thought was safe, because they were getting ready to go through a female genital mutilation process. And what I saw was that here I am, of the same land, of the same blood, of the same people, and I'm going there teaching about FGM, and they're looking at me strange. I'm like, why are you looking at me like this? Well, because we just had a practice about 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks before I talked to you, 2 weeks before this program happened, women were going through FGM. They were like, yeah. I was in tears. Do you hear me? I was in tears because I'm like, how can I teach a culture of people that is still doing it? Then the caveat to that is that the government was attempting to repeal the ban on FGM. So there's a ban on it, yet they were doing it 2 weeks ago. And then there are people that are trying to repeal the ban. They're trying to say that the ban is unethical to their religious practices. What religion says that FGM is proper? I'm Muslim, and there's nothing in Islam that says that FGM is proper. So I know it's not in Christianity, didn't see it in Judaism. Sikh, Hindu, Jain, didn't quite get that. So where is it written that is permissible? So when I speak to educators and scholars, especially in my tradition, because I speak to my tradition first, they're like, no, it doesn't say it. It's a cultural practice. Okay, so it's not a religious practice. So if you put it in your culture, why is the culture permitting? So now we have to look to a far-going conclusion that culture just repeats. It gets into a theory of just doing it. My grandfather did it, my father did it, my son is going to do it. So we have to change the narrative of what repeats. If you repeated that, then we have to get the next generation to understand that this is going to stop. So now the son has not done it for his daughter. So now his son is not going to do it for his daughter. And then that son is not going to do it for their daughter. And then if you repeat that, we will get into a message that FGM is not needed, not wanted, and doesn't do anything but distract the woman from having pleasure in when she's supposed to have pleasure. When she's giving birth, that she doesn't have to deal with unnecessary surgical procedures just to get baby out. And then she can heal properly because her body will be back into stasis that will allow her to understand that life does not have to be as torturous as FGM. So if I didn't learn anything else, is that it starts at home and it starts with the next generation to teach something different.
So ma'am, you wear many hats: doctor, educator, leader. How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance while tackling demanding global issues?
Oh, sis, I don't. I couldn't even get on here and pretend like there is a work life. Oh, I got it all under control. And no, I had more mental health days in retirement than I did when I was working. I retired in 2020 after 30 years in medicine, and I've taken more mental health days in the last 6 months than I probably did in 30 years of working. I've only lived this life once, and no man is an island. So anything I've done, good or bad, is all a part of the bigger process of learning. So you learn what works, you learn what doesn't work, you learn what is good for you, what's bad for you, and then you stand your ground by putting barriers there. You stand your ground in what it is you will and will not tolerate. And then you help yourself to remedy that which comes at you that you know is not helpful for you. That includes relationships, businesses, and even the social construct of what you do for society, how you give back. If you realize that this is not for you anymore, then move on. Because you staying in something that does not fit you or suit you anymore is building the toxicity that most of us are running from. And COVID taught us, if nothing else, that we don't have to deal with this toxicity. And we don't have to deal with it at work. Clearly when we weren't able to go to work, we didn't have to deal with that. We didn't have to deal with the corrupt bosses and the fraternizing coworkers and the abuse and the harassment and all that stuff that deals with the workspace. We could leave that alone, and we didn't have to return to it. And I think that was the biggest lesson that COVID gave to the business world. That you got to structure your business a little bit better, so that we can be a doctor, an educator, a leader, and wear all those hats. We don't have to worry about being corrupted by thinking we have to do it all, and then weaken ourselves in trying to get everything done. Because I tell you, and I've learned this, when each of us pass this life, if we die, the world will still continue, and we will be replaced. And what it is that we have and what we offered will be educated and will be updated and will be technologically advanced and all of the things that is happening to the people that came before us. So we just have to do what we can, be who we are, and stand our grounds in understanding that this is the only life we have to live. So we got to live it to the fullest.
Okay, so I think I have one more thing to ask you about.
Absolutely.
So what advice would you give to a young person today who wants to follow a path similar to yours, but doesn't know where to start?
You have to start from within. I have so many students that come to me every day to ask me, how do you get into gender and human rights? You just have to start. You have to volunteer somewhere, or you have to go into your house of worship and start a program, or begin at your school and offer. Let's say, I know in the local schools here, we have a gender and human rights program now, but we didn't have one. One of the students came to me and said, how do we start? So I started a program in their school. And that simple thing like advocating for those that are differently abled, those that are neurally diverse, those that are visually and audibly challenged. Start a program where you bring supplies and support. One of the students said that they wanted to learn sign language. So they learned how to do sign language so that they can communicate with those that are audibly challenged. They wanted to learn Braille. My husband is a Brailleist. So he transcribes like a book that you read into Braille so that those that are visually impaired can read it. And this is a huge piece that most don't understand, that there is a level of communication that we can have with others. And this is making the human a part of the diversity that they see. Another group in the same function deals with those that are, they're not able to catch up with others. Maybe they're emotionally challenged or they're behaviorally challenged and dealing with mental health issues. So they started a program where they bring in psychologists and psychiatrists once a month to speak about what they do, to allow that resource to now be in the school. So now they have someone they can go to. If someone is depressed or suicidal, they now have a practitioner that comes into the school once a month to talk about depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies. Now they have a refuge to go to. Now they have someone they can talk to. So they're not alienated in their own devices. So I would say just start right where you are and ask the teachers what are some of the things that they wished that was happening in their community, and start that. And then give me a call and I'll help you the rest of the way so that you can manage what it is that you need and how you need to do it in your community. Thank you for allowing this voice to go forward. Just your presence here today has allowed me to know that my work still needs to be done. And it needs to be done with women and girls. And I would like to challenge you to raise your voice to speak at an event in the future that we have for women and girls, where we talk about safe spaces for women and their body, safe places for women to go, and the advocacy that your voice will give to another girl that's going through something. And they're waiting for your story to be told. And this goes for anyone listening. Your story is so valuable and so valued that there is a little girl in the corner of the world that is going through just what you went through, almost in the same order. And she doesn't know how to navigate this, but you do, because you've gone through it and you've experienced it. Now it's your turn to teach. And I challenge each and every one of you to pick up that torch and teach that little girl, because she needs you.
Thank you so much, Papa. It just went straight into my heart. I think I should be the first person to take up that challenge.
Yes.
And I have shied away from, I know what I've gone through, and I've never still come forward and speak. Never.
And we need you. We need your voice. I need your voice in our organization. And I will challenge you to that. And you take your time. When you are ready, let me know. And that voice will be heard on many platforms. We speak all over the world, different languages that are translated, so your voice can be heard. And we can hear you speak what it is you've been through, because there's going to be someone that's going to connect with you, either here at the journal or online, or personally, maybe right there where you are, that said, I heard you. Thank you. And they're going to be who you are going to mentor to, because they're going to need that experience, that knowledge, that wisdom that you carry. And it would be such a shame for you to go to your grave without sharing that story. It would be almost a sin to go to your grave knowing you hold such wealth in your heart and not to be able to share it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm here.
So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
You're most welcome, and thank you for having me. I pray that something I said today will help another girl realize their potential and realize that they do have choices in gender and human rights. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Be well.